no question. 24, 26.
That's pressure.
Look, I don't know if Cheryl was really confused by the big news, but many in the basketball world were left scratching their heads, wondering why the NBA would suddenly cancel the All-Star Game's three-point challenge between Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu. I mean, last year's contest was, by all accounts, a success. Until now, they plan to run it back. Sabrina got within 3 points of Steph, which generated headlines across the sports world and provided a broader audience with a glimpse of the skill in the WNBA. Because of the visibility the WNBA may have lost by not being showcased on the NBA stage, some see this as a big fat L for the league and women's basketball. I mean, just look what the exposure of 3 dunk contest victories has done for Mac McClung's NBA career. Okay, nothing against Mac. The guy saved the dunk contest. But you can probably tell where I'm going with this. Those who think not taking part in the NBA skills competition hurts the WNBA are wrong. Which is a good thing because business as usual wasn't all that hot until Caitlyn came around. From the years 27 to 1 BC, and by BC I mean before Caitlyn, because let's be honest, that's how historians will measure time when it comes to the WNBA. Players would have begged for a shot at the NBA All-Star Game. The ratings were superior. The audience was huge. It was a prime opportunity to elevate their brand. But it was also a sideshow, a gimmick. And no matter how you slice it, it kind of felt like charity in the sense that the NBA didn't really need the WNBA's involvement. And that's why Caitlyn's snub and the NBA's subsequent cancellation make such a profound statement. The WNBA, its players, and the haters who try to tear down Caitlyn at every turn better wake up after what just took place. This is just one of many chess moves Caitlyn's made that have paid off. And now, the stage is set for her to silence the haters for good. Let's break it down. So Caitlyn turned down the All-Star Game's three-point challenge for the second straight year. Last year, her decision was all about rest. She had come off a deep run with the Hawkeyes, then jumped right into the WNBA. And while this season's decision was also tactical, it had nothing to do with rest. It was the ultimate flex of her brand. Caitlyn made it crystal clear that her first three-point contest is going to be at the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis this summer. Again, before Caitlyn arrived, snubbing the NBA All-Star Game in favor of the WNBA's version was like trading a gold bar for a half-eaten taco. It made no sense. And for any player other than Caitlyn, it still makes no sense. Only Caitlyn can make this kind of power play, and by doing so, grow their brand and the WNBA's profile. And we just got the proof. The NBA in response canceled the whole thing. Why? They said they couldn't find a way to top last year's event. But come on, read between the lines. That's code for no Caitlyn, no point. Here's why that's significant. Remember when I said WNBA players needed the NBA stage? Well, in this case, the NBA needed a WNBA player, Caitlin Clark. Caitlyn, pound for pound, is the most influential figure in basketball right now. Sports Pro rated her the 4th most marketable athlete in the world, ahead of Messi and Ronaldo. And even if you don't agree with that ranking, you can't deny her magnetism. She's got more star power and intrigue than anyone in the women's game by a country mile, and a rare ability to draw in casual viewers who otherwise wouldn't watch a WNBA game if they were paid. And everyone knows it. Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, Bose, Buick. These are just some of the brands Caitlyn agreed to partner with. She's likely been approached by hundreds of name brands you'd recognize. At this point, she's saying no a lot more than she's saying yes, which brings us back to the power of her NBA snub. Caitlyn, knowing that she's the main draw, decided to focus all the attention on the WNBA instead of getting individual glory on the NBA stage. Her no to the NBA was a massive yes for the WNBA. Clark knows exactly how much pull she's got, and she's wielding it like a samurai to draw more eyes to the league. Every WNBA player should be sending Caitlyn flowers, or at least a thank you text for putting the WNBA first. But here's the kicker. This isn't even the first time she's pulled a move like this. Clark's been consistent in her commitment to the WNBA. She's not just talking the talk, she's walking the walk. Every decision she makes seems to be laser-focused on elevating the women's game through its biggest platform. For example, everyone thought she'd jump at the chance to play in Unrivaled, including the organizers and probably TNT, who committed to a TV deal. because they likely thought Caitlyn would be in the mix. The league pays players more than the WNBA, and Caitlyn was widely expected to use her influence to grow the league. But she turned down a cool $1 million in equity. Thanks, but no thanks. Now, to many, this snub seemed counterintuitive. Unlike turning down the NBA, the men's game, Unrivaled was a women's league that promoted better pay for its players. And let's not kid ourselves, while Unrivaled won't admit it, her absence could mean curtains for the league in a few years. But again, her reasoning was consistent. She's laser-focused on the WNBA. She knows that's the big stage. There's no prestige in winning Unrivaled. That's not what people will remember. She'd be doing them a favor more than it would benefit her. Really, the Olympics is the only basketball event outside of the WNBA she'll participate in because there's prestige and legacy tied to it. It's representing your country in front of the world, not playing for a paycheck in front of 850 fans. The sideshows and stunts are distractions. They're potential liabilities that could derail what she's trying to accomplish. I mean, could you imagine Caitlyn being sidelined for 20 games of the upcoming WNBA season because she got injured playing 3-on-3 against Angel Reese? The WNBA should have paid Caitlyn $5 million not to participate for that reason alone. If she understands one thing, it's that her dominance on the court is the foundation of her meteoric rise. While some players in the league actively seek attention outside of basketball, leading with attitude and personality to snag sponsorship deals, I'm not naming names, Clark's allure is all about what she does when she steps onto the hardwood. Her aura took shape in college. She didn't just break records, she shattered them. She became the all-time points leader in college basketball history, not just women's, but men's too. And she did it with style, delivering dominant playoff performances and leading her team to 2 finals appearances. Naturally, the hype followed her to the W. Her draft alone drew 3.4 million viewers. Some doubters, like Cheryl Swoops, questioned whether she could deliver the same goods at the pro level. But guess what? Clark didn't just meet those sky-high expectations, she obliterated them. In her rookie season, she averaged a jaw-dropping 19.2 points and 8.4 assists per game. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about a rookie coming in and immediately becoming one of the league's top performers. She set the single-season assists record, became the first rookie in WNBA history to record a triple-double, and walked away with the Rookie of the Year award. Oh, and did I mention she led her team to the playoffs and finished 4th in MVP voting in her first year? Yet people still say the hype is because of her color. I'll get into how they're about to look really bad in a minute. Through her on-court accomplishments, she captivated a whole new audience. Want proof? Let's look at the numbers. Indiana Fever games accounted for a staggering 45% of the league's broadcast value. Almost every game that pulled in over 1 million viewers featured guess who? Caitlyn Clark. Her first-round playoff games drew more eyeballs than the WNBA Finals. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Indiana Fever set a single-season record for total home attendance with 340,715 fans, absolutely demolishing the previous record of 250,565 set by New York way back in 2001. We all love the Lexi Hulls and Temi Fagbenleys of the world, but they aren't who the fans came to see. Now, of course, as I mentioned, there are always going to be detractors. There's nothing wrong with criticizing on-court performance. If Caitlyn stinks up the joint, the talking heads have every right to call it out. But some claim Clark's allure and attention are based on race, arguing that it comes at the expense of other players who are equally as talented. But let's be real here. The numbers don't lie. Clark isn't just getting attention, she's earning it with her play on the court. It's not really that hard to get. Speaking of being hard to get, let's talk about the power of saying no. It's not something we often celebrate, but in Caitlyn Clark's case, it's becoming a game changer. Every time she says no, her brand value increases. I mean, this is the first time since 2023 when fans have gone a long stretch without Caitlyn playing basketball. At this point, fans are going bananas over clips of her simply working out or watching football games. Just wait for the first game of the WNBA season. Because of the buildup, ratings will be off the charts. And when you have the NBA straight up canceling their events because you're not playing in them, that's power. I mean, ask yourself, did you ever think a WNBA player would have that kind of leverage? Even Clark's critics are starting to take notice. The same people who tried to tear her down, claiming her attention was only because of her race, are now forced to acknowledge her impact. Even Cheryl Swoops, of all people, said she respected Caitlin's decision because it put the women's game first.
No, I respect that. Because Sabrina did the opposite.
Let's face it, when you're setting records, dragging your mediocre team to the playoffs, and making the NBA rethink their all-star events, it's pretty hard to argue that you're not earning every bit of attention you get. At the start of this video, I said the haters would need to wake up. I say this because they're not ready for what's next. This offseason, Caitlin proved she could draw more than just fans. She can draw players. By almost all accounts, the Fever won free agency. They brought in 3-time champion and former Defensive Player of the Year, Natasha Howard, 2-time champion and 6-time All-Star DeWanna Bonner, a sharpshooter and fierce competitor in Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Colson, a recent back-to-back champion who left Asia Wilson and the Aces to play with Caitlin. Add in 19-point scorer Kelsey Mitchell and young All-Star Aaliyah Boston, and Caitlin, arguably for the first time ever, has a powerhouse supporting cast. They're scorers, they're defenders, they're winners, and they all want to play with Caitlin. Doing so gives them a chance not just to win a championship, but be part of something bigger. You know how we're still talking about Scottie Pippen, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, and Dennis Rodman. Heck, people remember Bill Wennington. They're remembered because they were part of a dynasty, led by an iconic player who transformed the game forever. Playing a supporting role didn't tarnish them. It cemented their names in a legacy of dominance. Caitlin Clark, in that sense, is the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. The Fever are the Bulls. While the commissioner and others in the media drool over rivalries like Caitlin versus Angel or Caitlin versus Asia, they should simply lean into Caitlin's quest for a championship. If other players become rivals naturally, so be it. The impact of Caitlin making a deep championship run cannot be understated. Clark's championship game with the Hawkeyes pulled in nearly 19 million viewers. Just imagine what would happen if she made the WNBA Finals. We're talking about unprecedented viewership, not just the 1 to 2 million per game achieved by the Liberty and Lynx. And with the finals being extended from 5 to 7 games this year, there'd be even more exposure for the league. If Caitlin draws 10 million viewers and wins MVP, there's nowhere left to hide for the haters who claim her ascent is race-driven. And these accomplishments are more than just possible. The clickbait detractors are going to look silly, so they might as well tone down the rhetoric now. It's bad for the game either way. Clark's visibility and success are inspiring a whole new generation of female athletes. She's changing the narrative around women's sports, proving that the WNBA can stand on its own without needing validation from a men's league. Her sponsorships and fame are a byproduct of her on-court success, a standard that everyone should be able to respect. She knows this, and by turning down the NBA and other opportunities, she remains laser-focused on what will make the biggest impact on not just her brand and legacy, but the women's game. The ripple effects of Clark's influence are already being felt. Youth participation in basketball is on the rise, and public perception of women's basketball is shifting. So while leagues like Unrivaled were built to boost player salaries, and the NBA's three-point challenge was meant to showcase women's talent, Clark is showing that greatness in the WNBA is enough. Because of Caitlin and her discipline to say no, all eyes will be on the WNBA All-Star Game coming up in Indianapolis this summer. It's going to be must-see TV, and Clark knows it. She's not just participating in an event, she's shining the spotlight on her peers. As they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And if the result of Caitlin's recent power move with the NBA proved anything, it's that she's only begun to elevate the women's game. If you're still here, drop a basketball in the comments to let me know. Thank you for watching. See you next time.